narcissism, how it shows up, what it is, why we tolerate it. That is the topic of today's Soul Sovereignty and Sexuality podcast with myself, Jessica Falcon, International Soul Embodiment Guide and Divine Feminine Activator. Because I've noticed, not only within myself, but within a lot of empathic, sensitive souls, those who have big hearts, and a lot of women in general, have experienced narcissistic relationship or have had narcissistic parents, bosses. And unfortunately, narcissism is pretty common in the West because our culture is based on an external identity, which is what creates narcissism. So let's dig into this a little bit more. And I'm going to preface with certainly, and the 20-minute conversation we're about to have, I can't cover all of this. And I'm not talking from the perspective of a traditional textbook definition of narcissism. I'm talking more about the energetics of narcissism, the emotional aspects of narcissism and how that shows up, and the difference between being narcissistic, selfish, and actually having a self, which are two very different things. Narcissism generally shows up when somebody is taking more than they're giving. And that can be felt energetically. It can show up in them actually just physically taking from you, taking money, not providing, not furnishing in equal measure. It can show up when they can't celebrate you and your achievements. It can show up when they call you selfish, when you have a boundary, right? The list can go on. And at the root of this is that, and I'm using the phrase narcissism loosely, when somebody is narcissistic, they only have an identity that is based on the external. And they see others as an extension of themselves. So when the other person doesn't meet their need or give them what they want, they call them selfish. So the irony is that most narcissists call other people selfish because, well, you're not giving me what I want, and therefore you're selfish, because they don't actually see the other as their own person, and they don't see the other person's own needs, own feelings, own desires. They don't honor the other person's inner experience because they can't see it. They're blind to it. The irony is that they are blind to the other person's experience because they are so wrapped up in their own, it's ego, their own small self, their own self. They can't see outside of themselves because they are generally disconnected from their heart. They are not connected to their soul self, their true self. A narcissist doesn't actually have a self. Their entire identity is based on the external. They can only see themselves through the eyes of the other. And it's ironic because we tend to think of narcissism, of Narcissus, right? In the ancient myth, who would look in the water and saw himself and thought these wonderful things about himself and was in love with himself. But that's not actually narcissism, because the narcissist doesn't see themselves, their true self, at all. They only see their identities. They only see themselves through through the identities that other people have given them. So their role, their position. They only see themselves through what they have achieved, what they have, their possessions. They have this false sense of self that is very fragile. So energetically, Your solar plexus is where your soul light comes into your body. And when we are not filled with our own soul light, which is how we create sovereignty, when we are not filled with that, we start to create these cords that go out to others to fill us. So the narcissist is emitting these cords out to other people and saying, you fill me, you give to me, you meet this need, you make me feel good, you give me worth, you give me identity. And that creates that taking energy that you feel. It's a draining energy because they are not filled from within. They are so disconnected from their true self, their soul self, their divine self, that they cannot fill themselves from within. So how can they see other people when they can't see themselves? I know this goes counterculture to the way that we've been conditioned to think about narcissism. We're so fucking afraid of being called selfish. I know for years I was so afraid I would be selfish that I was actually just afraid to have a self, a true self with boundaries, and to speak my own truth and to live according to my own soul desires and not based on the external. There is a massive difference between a true self and a false self, the divine self and the ego self. There's a massive, massive difference. And when you start to connect in with the internal soul self, anchor your heart back into self. Fill yourself from within because you're sourcing from the infinite divine love that you are. You are sourcing internal safety. You are sourcing your own worth. You are sourcing your own value. You truly see yourself through your own soul's eyes, not through the eyes of others. You fill yourself with your own soul light, your own soul truth, which is what gets rid of any cords that go out to others. You no longer seek to take. You don't demand. You were already fulfilled from within. And as you see your soul self, you cannot help but see and honor the soul in others. And so when you are free within you, when you've created that deep level of internal freedom, which is what I'm so passionate about helping others do, because I can feel and see and embody the difference within myself of what true sovereignty really provides you. That when you do this, you don't need other people to meet your needs. You're able to celebrate them. You're able to honor their own feelings, even if they're different than yours. You're able to honor their own experience, even if it's not the one you're having. You're able to honor their own desires, even if your desires are different. Because you are filled from within. You're not needing to pull their energy or their approval or their worth or their agreement or any of that into you so that you can feel fulfilled. You are already fulfilled. You are already whole. You are already complete. You already belong fully to you, to the earth, to the divine. And so this is what ends codependent dynamics in relationships. When you soul source, when you are sovereign, soul sovereign, it's impossible to experience codependent dynamics in relationship, which is when those energetic cords are going out from one person's solar plexus to the others, and they get attached and they get all mixed up. This being said, a narcissist only has cords going out to other people because they are not fulfilled from within. They don't know how to source from within. They are disconnected from soul self. They are disconnected from source. So everyone becomes a pawn in their own game. You meet this. I need you to do this. I can't honor your no. You're selfish for having a boundary because I need you to be who I want you to be only. Because they can't see outside of themselves. Because they're stuck in their ego, which is the small self, which is me, 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 me. True self, soul self, sovereignty is I pull all my cords back, I pull my power back, I source from within, from the divine within me. I don't need you to be this for me. I already know I'm worthy. I already know I'm good, right? That kind of thing I was just referring to. So I can see you clearly. I see you as your own person. I allow you to be you. Whether or not that resonates and having a relationship together is yet to be seen, right? You can love somebody unconditionally and not want to be in a relationship with them because there's not enough energetic resonance and it doesn't feel aligned or good to you. That's a different question. And what that means is when you start to pull your power back, turn your heart, anchor into yourself, fill yourself with your own soul, light, and truth, sovereign, you no longer tolerate any situation in which somebody else does not see you. Because a narcissist will never see you. If somebody is still in that narcissistic phase, when I say narcissist, I'm not saying that person is just a narcissist and that's all they are, because people are complex, multidimensional beings. And I myself have loved people who were narcissistic and still have infinite love for them, but could not be in a relationship with them because it wasn't in resonance and I demanded to be seen and I had to recognize this person can never see me because of their narcissistic behaviors. And that doesn't take away their own soul and their own complexity of their own being. So back to what I was saying. When somebody is engaging in narcissistic behaviors, they're never able to see you and you will always feel invisible or unheard or misunderstood because they just don't have the capacity to see you because they haven't developed the capacity to love themselves or source from within. And they just don't have that capacity. They haven't built that yet. And so if you were focused on trying to get that other person to see you in relationship and they're not doing their own inner work to come out of those patterns and tendencies and source from within and become sovereign, you're banging your head against the wall. I did that. I understand. I know that. And I have a lot of compassion for that. And the only way out is for you to see you. Because when you truly and deeply see you, your true self, your soul self, you will not tolerate anyone else who does not see you. You will exit out of that relationship. You will have the boundaries, even if they call them selfish. You will speak your truth, even if they don't want to hear it. You exit out of that dynamic. It no longer resonates. It cannot work. And that also requires you to do the inner work of where did I allow their cords to come into me? What was I seeking from them? So for example, me, when I was in a relationship with somebody who had those narcissistic tendencies, I was still unconsciously seeking their approval or their love or sense of belonging. I had to do the work to pull those cords back into me and source from within. This is a journey. It's a journey I take people on in my groups and my one-on-ones. It is a journey. It is not an overnight fix, because when we do this work, we have to face so many deeply embedded subconscious fears, soul traumas, karmic agreements, right? And belief systems and the conditioning our world tells us. Look at the politics right now. It's narcissism faces narcissism faces narcissism. I believe this. It's ridiculous. And we accept it and we tolerate it. Why? Because we're told that's normal and we're told that it's okay. And it is not okay. When you are anchored in your heart and your soul, you give everyone else permission to be who they are, to choose for themselves, to meet their own needs, to have their own desires. You do not demand that they meet yours or that they think the way that you think in order to be loved. That is narcissism at its root. And if you were in a relationship in which this is occurring, I hope this gives you a better understanding of what you can do to untangle yourself out of that dynamic and reclaim and inhabit your own space to fulfill yourself from within. A narcissist on the inside feels empty. That's why they need other people to fill and fulfill them. That's why there's a taking energy. So as you fulfill you from within, you no longer need anything from them. So you don't allow them to take from you. And if you were raised by a narcissistic parent, what can often happen is that there are a lot of energetic cords going out that you have the opportunity to heal, which is soul level healing. So in addition to the one-on-one offerings that I have to unleash your sovereign power and the upcoming initiation into divine feminine power, which starts September 27th, I have a new free offering that I want to invite you into, because especially now more than ever, it is imperative that we start to pull our power back individually and collectively from these belief systems that continue to perpetuate power over, power under dynamics, and more divisiveness and more separation. And this is an event that I've been co-creating with my guides and the earth, that is a way that we can turn our hearts back into ourselves, into our bodies, and into the earth, to reconnect with the truth of who we are, to reclaim your truth, your power, your sovereignty. And clearly this is just the beginning. It's the beginning of the initiation into divine feminine power. Whether you journey with us or not, this is the beginning. It is an invocation. It is a ritual of forgiveness and reconnection. Whether you're a man or a woman, you're invited into this. I will be talking specifically to women and the ways that belief systems have affected women in this event. But if you're a man, you can still benefit from that. I do work with men one-on-one as well. And I'm willing to form a group with men if there's enough interest, but it can't be the same, because women and men have different beliefs and often different traumas to work through. And so to address them all together would not be doing anyone justice. It requires a separate approach based on my own experience, my own expertise and research. So I'll put the link in the show notes, or you can go to thepathtosovereignty.com and sign up for it's called Enter the Holy Temple of You to Reclaim Your Truth, Power, and Sovereignty, Ritual of Reclamation. It will be held on Friday, September 6th from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. So you can check your own time zone, whether you're Pacific Coast, London, Paris. And if you can't attend live, you will receive a recording. Though, of course, I would love to see you live. And when you register, I'll send you a list of what you'll be asked to bring with you for the ritual. It's going to be incredibly potent and juicy, and I really hope to see you there. Sending you so much love.